and gentlemen, it gives me great honor to introduce our guest on today. She was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She has dedicated 15 years of her professional career enforcing the laws of the great city of Baton Rouge. Her career in law enforcement began as a sheriff deputy at the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office. She graduated in the 162nd Basic Training Academy. While at the Sheriff's Office, she worked in the Criminal Investigative Unit, courtroom security, communications, and at the parish prison. She also worked for the Baton Rouge City Constable, where she was named the first female sergeant to operate the city jail. On December 8, 2018, she was elected with 57% of the vote, making history, not only as the youngest constable, but also the first female constable in the city of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Now, I introduce to you the Baton Rouge City Constable, Terrica Williams. How are you?
Great, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for being here on today. I greatly appreciate you accepting my invitation, of course. And one thing I want to ask you, and look, you have so many gifts and talents, Terrica. I mean, I have been knowing you for quite some time myself, so I am so honored to say that I know you and that you are a friend of mine. But I wanted to ask you, Terrica, why did you decide to get involved in law enforcement?
Wow, that's a great question today. And I know people should know my story. It was more or less for the right thing for the people, because I knew that the people needed it, the community needed it. I'm big on community, so our communities need the right people in the right places. Of course, I was the first female to run the city jail at the agency. And some things happened that I wasn't pleased with, and I wasn't pleased with the agency, the way that it was running. So I decided, you know what better way to make a change than to be about the change and go in and make changes. So I made myself available to the people, and they voted for me. Of course, I won 57% of the votes. So that's it. The people really wanted me in the position, and we took off running. I've been there. This is my second year, and within the first year, we made a lot of changes. We kind of turned the agency in a new direction. My slogan was New Vision, New Direction. And my new direction was to bridge the gap with all law enforcement. So we have a relationship with the sheriff and the chief, and we all work together as one.
Oh, that is awesome. Look, if you don't mind, because some people may not really know what is the responsibility or the duties of a constable. Can you tell us what is the difference between being a police officer, a sheriff, or even a state trooper?
Okay. Yeah, the constable, my position, I'm the sheriff in the city. The sheriff is the sheriff in the parish. I'm the sheriff in the city. Everything that the sheriff do in the parish is what I do in the city. My guys do more evictions, civil mandates, garnishments. We do more negative stuff than positive stuff. We do bench warrants. We man the entire city court building. So that's one of the reasons why I do a lot of community service, to kind of offset the negative things that we do, because who wants to see the constable show up only when it's time to do an eviction and evict you out of your property? Who wants to see a constable only when they're serving papers saying that your check is being garnished because, you owe somebody money? So we try to do positive stuff just to show the people that we're not the ugly and the mean people, but we do have to do what the court orders. It's not the constable, it's the court that orders these mandates, and we have to follow what the court says. But we do everything in the city what the sheriff do in the parish.
Oh, okay. And that's good that you made that clear, because I'm sure like people who being evicted, the first thing they're thinking about is, hey, it's the constable that's doing that, but it's good to know that it's something that is ordered by the court, right?
In this seat, we put some things in place. We make sure that the evictions are done fair. We make sure that they're done whereas the people who are being evicted are not just thrown out on the street. We try to give them time to make sure they can get their stuff out of the property before the landlord show up to put them out. So we try to make sure that it's as simple as possible.
Okay. Look, now, as an African-American woman and as a law enforcement officer, what is your perspective on racial bias in policing?
Well, actually, one of the reasons I ran for the position, because when I became the first female to run the jail at this agency, I was being mistreated as a female. I was discriminated against as a female, not because of my gender. And I actually filed a lawsuit in 2013, and I won my lawsuit in federal court. So gender and racial is two different things. Your race is thing, but your gender is something else. But when you're not being treated fairly, you have to stand up. You have to stand for what's right. And I didn't sue the agency because they treated me different as a female. It was just because as a person I was being treated different. So the same thing applies to race. You know, I don't tolerate it. I don't like it. You know, no matter what color, I don't see color, I see people. And my guys will tell you, my team, they know I'm about people across the board. Even with everything that's going on now in the nation with the race and the different things that's going on now, when some of the stuff happened, I called a meeting with my guys. I was like, y'all already know, I don't do color, I do people. I don't see everybody to me as the same color because we're all God's children. So we have to do a job, and we have to do it fair, and it's justice for everybody, not just because of this color or that color, or if you the police or you are a civilian. Everybody should be treated fairly. And what I did, I brought my guys in. I had that long speech with them, and I told them what I expect from them as police, as constables. And even in telling them what I expected from them as constables, I retrained my guys. I retrained them on the proper arresting techniques. I retrained them. We did a diversity training, where a young man came in to teach them how to deal with different races and different cultures of people. We did a de-escalation training to where we went back and retrained them on how to de-escalate a situation. If you know a situation is getting bad, you know, bag out of it. You don't have to be the hero. You don't have to force it. Just bag out of it and find another way to deal with it. So when you're talking about racial lines, I'm big on it because, like you say, I'm the first African-American female to hold this position. And being in this position, I demand respect. When I walk in the room, I don't care what color in the room, I don't care how many people in the room, I just demand respect. But in order to get respect, you have to get respect. Yeah. So I'm people respect me and they like me.
Well, look, they can't help but like you. You're such a beautiful person, you know, not just on the outside, but of course you're inside. You have the spirit of the Lord. I have to say that from the day that I met you. And all I can say to you is just keep on keeping on, because truly God has his hands on you. And I commend you on what you're doing, and you stepped out on faith. You did probably, you know, more than what any other person or female African-American woman at that would even consider or think about doing. So I truly commend you on what you're doing, and just to continue doing the great work that you're doing. Now, you mentioned earlier, and of course, there is different things that is going on in the world today. I won't even just say the United States, but, you know, just to touch bases a little bit on the protesting that took place, you know, of course, with George Floyd. I want to know, do you see a difference in the response that perhaps that we got from Alton Sterling, you know, from the shooting of him, and versus the George Floyd murder, you might as well say? Do you see the response was different, you know, between the two of them? And not that it makes a difference, because both of them was totally wrong and out of order. But it just amazed me, I have to say personally, you know, well, we can see it all before our eyes, what happened even with Alton Sterling, and then here what took place, you know, with George Floyd. So what is your perspective on that?
With those two cases, and it's funny because when Alton Sterling's situation came about, I wasn't in law enforcement. I was actually a bail bondsman at the time. And the people who were protesting were being arrested for protesting in certain situations. And of course, I was the bail bondsman who went and bonded a lot of the people out because I'm one. And I mean, I know I have a job to do and I have a position to hold, but I'm about right. If you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. I don't condone people that are doing the wrong things. If you're doing the right things, I'll support you. And some of the people that have been protesting, I was hired by an agency to make sure that all of the protesters that had been arrested were bonded out in a timely manner. And I did it because, I mean, for one, I had a job to do, and I was called to do that job. And I couldn't judge the people based on what they were doing as far as protesting because, I mean, they were protesting for a cause and for a reason. This time with the protest, I'm on the opposite side now. I'm the city constable, and I'm limited to what I can do, but I can still do some things so that when people are not being treated fairly, they should stand up and they should speak out. As far as the protesting this time, it was more uniform. It was more united. It was more people who, I think more of our younger people who are tired of seeing it because they're the future. And they feel like if they continue to allow people to mistreat them and do them wrong, eventually we won't have any young people. We won't have a future. So I think they were more frustrated and I think they're more to continue to see the same thing happen over and over again, not just because of George Floyd or Alton Sterling, but you have your Breonna Taylors, you have, it's so many people, Trayvon Martin, it's so many young people have been affected by injustices, and I think they're just tired, and they're at the point now where they're speaking up about it, and I think what they're speaking, as long as they're speaking on the peaceful side, they can be heard. I did a couple of voter registrations during the protest because my thing is, you speaking, but you're still speaking to the people who are not listening.
Mm-hmm.
You people and you put the right people in place who can listen and who can help you when you speak. So when you protest, they listen and they say, okay, well, they want us to change this. So you have the right person on the other side to say, well, you know what? If they want us to change this, we can change this. But if you have the same people in the same places, you get the same results no matter how much you protest. So I encourage everybody, voter registration, get out, sign up and vote. Go vote. Vote the bad people out. Vote the good people in. We have major elections coming up. Get involved with those elections, learn the candidates, and vote for, like in my case, I ran against 5 males. And the word was I wasn't the person for the position. I was bitter. I was angry. I couldn't run this agency. And when I tell you I walked into this agency January the 2nd, 2019, and I took an agency that had 4 flat tires pretty much to say, wasn't running at all. And I turned it around and I put brand new tires on it and we moving forward. We have not stopped. We've done so many things. I mean, new equipment for my guys, more training for my guys. So if you do and you make changes in the places where you need the changes, you can make a difference in everything.
Yeah, that is great, Terrica. Allow me to ask you this. Do you think that police training techniques encourage, and I'm going to ask this question, it may sound maybe not a great question, but it has some reality to it. But do you think that police training techniques encourage racial bias? Do you believe that? And I'm not saying that's here in Baton Rouge or wherever, but I mean, you just wonder sometimes.
Sometimes, I mean, like I said earlier with my guys, as a leader, what I did, I went back to retrain my guys, and I didn't wait. And I mean, even with COVID-19, I had pictures of my guys being retrained. I rushed out to the sheriff's office because they have a training. And the guy came into my agency, and my guys were sitting in the room with masks on their face, and they were all social distancing. And he retrained them on de-escalation, how to calm a situation instead of bringing it to the next level. We did diversity training, and training, to me, you only do what you've been trained to do. If you train them to do it one way, that's what they're going to do. And I know because I've been through trainings, and I still revert and remain. I mean, even though I went through the 162nd Basic Training Academy, which was years ago, but I still training techniques. But the only way you can get better at it is keep training, and then you get better, and then you learn how to treat people. Some of the situations I've watched, and I saw the situation up at the Wendy's, I can't think of the guy's name, but if you are trained to be able to deal with people on a person-to-person basis, and then you deal, this young man had been drinking, give him a ride home. I would have been like, sir, do you need a ride home? But it all goes back to knowing your leaders, knowing your commanders, knowing the people that lead the agencies, and knowing how they operate. And my guys, I'm almost positive, would have been doing what they know. They would probably say, how they say, what would Jesus do? They would say, what would the constable do? And the constable do something to put, first of all, your life in danger, because now you're in danger when you're fighting with this person out there, and then to put that person's life in danger. So I feel that training would play a big part in what happens with the racial discrimination.
Now, let me ask you this too. Is there a certain requirements for candidates to become a police officer? Or is there, I mean, do they have to have a college degree versus a high school diploma?
So as long as they have a high school diploma, they're okay. With my agency, I can speak for my agency, but I also know that like with the Sheriff's Office and Baton Rouge City Police, we all do the same training. I mean, even probation and parole, the universities, BRCC, Southern University, LSU Police, we all train in the same police academy. High school diploma, good clean criminal history, no criminal history, a great background check. And with me, I interview every person that I hire. I don't allow other people to do my interviews. I have my staff with me, my chief deputy, my captain, and my lieutenants, but I interview every person that I hire because I want to know who I'm hiring and who I'm putting in a uniform and who I'm putting out on the streets. They have to go through physical fitness. They have to be able to run, sit up, push ups. They take a matrix test where that determines if you have any type of psychological problems or whatever. I don't know. I passed the matrix test, so I think I'm okay. They go through training, and there are certain guidelines that they have to meet in order to become a police officer. Now, will every officer do what they've been trained to do? No. Will every officer, they will pass the little pre-hire screening because some people just know how to master it and pass it. But as leaders, we can only trust that we will get the right people to do the right thing. And as leaders, it's our place to monitor that and make sure if we see that they're not doing the right thing. I get calls all the time, hey, you might want to check this or you might want to pay attention to that. And I like it because it gives me a chance to just start looking and see what's going on.
Because I guess like for any other thing, you know, it's really kind of difficult to really pinpoint who's good and who's bad. And, you know, because you can have the highest degree and that doesn't really mean that you're really the best person to fit the job or the position. But this was brought to my attention, but I believe, and I'm not sure if you all do this, and perhaps you do, but maybe, you know, not some, but I think maybe the police officers should go through some type of counseling. Do you all do that?
We don't do it, but I'm the counselor at my job. At my
That's good.
Hold on, here we go again. What y'all want to talk about now? I told them I have 43 deputies, children. I said all these my kids, they're all my babies. But to me, yes, and especially after maybe about 3 or 4 years of being in law enforcement, maybe they should go and talk to somebody because after about your third year, you start, first of all, getting comfortable with the job. You start with the job. Things happen. I had a situation when I was a sergeant, when I was working in the jail. And I was working at one of the universities, and some guys that came on campus, and they robbed the kid. They hit the kid in the head with the gun, and they took his money, his wallet, his laptop, his cell phone. And I go to assist the guys who were working it. And thinking I'm a female, and this is a young black guy, and I get him out the car, and as I'm handcuffing this kid, he starts fighting me. And you would think a young man fighting a female officer, it wouldn't happen, but it happens. And I had one handcuff on him, and I know my handcuff is a weapon. So I'm holding on to the handcuff with dear life, like if I let this cuff go, he can hit me in my face and hurt me. So I'm holding this cuff, and we fighting, and me and the guy fell on the ground. And I was able to get off of me. Thank God for training, and I was able to get him off, and he jumped and he ran in the opposite direction. Now, at that point, I had all the right in the world to shoot him because my handcuff is a weapon. But he's not a threat. He's going in the opposite direction. He's not running to me. I know who he is. I have his ID. I know how to find him. So I'm going to find him later. I'm not, why should I kill him? So it's like, after that incident, I was always like, what if somebody else tried me like this? What if I pull up on somebody else and they don't want to go to jail and then they start to try to fight me? So as I got older and down the line of my career, maybe I should have had some counseling to say, hey, look, this is what I've been through. This is where my mind is. I just thank God that I never got to the point to be jittery or nervous or feel like I want to kill somebody because I don't want them to hurt me. So at some point, officers should, maybe after 2 or 3 years, even 5 years of being in law enforcement, go and talk to a counselor. Go talk to, what is it, Dr. Phil? Go talk to Dr. Phil and just say, hey, look, this is what's going on.
Yeah, I think it would help because, they are. I mean, you guys, y'all deal with a lot of different people, and everybody doesn't have, are not at the greatest state of mind. So honestly, I feel that it should be at the beginning of hiring as well as maybe in the middle, somewhere, like you said, 3 to 5 years. And that was just a thought because perhaps that may, could help in some type of way to, not so much, air out the bad guys or whatever, but at least to know where everyone is. Because, like I said, you're dealing with so many different people. So that is something to consider. And I think maybe that is something that, the city, not just Baton Rouge, but all over the country, something that they should look into if it's not taking place in certain areas or whatever.
One good thing is in the beginning, we do the matrix test, which is they go and they meet with the doctor, like a psychological doctor, and I'm pretty much like a counselor. And he asks, I want to say it's about 1,000 questions. And you answer all these questions to see, and what they're feeling for is to see what problems you may have, what mindset you may have. Now, when I've taken it, I think 3 times because I've always been in law enforcement. And the first time I took it, and they was like, well, guess what? Only crazy people pass the psychological test. And I was like, well, I must be crazy because I passed it. But no, it's not. It's a great test. It's a great technique because it shows, it's like a graph that shows this person have a problem in this area. And they know what area you have problems in. One time there was a guy who had taken the test, and he had been, some things that happened to him when he was a kid. But he was still holding. And whatever answers he answered on that test, this doctor knew that he was still dealing with that and was able to relate that message back to the agency and say, hey, look, he's dealing with some things that happened to him as a kid. Now, will every test prove and be 100% accurate? No, because nothing is, 100%. But for the most part, every officer that is hired, I know with my agency, and I'm almost positive with every other agency, have to take the psychological test, which is a form of counseling because you sit with a doctor and this doctor asks all these questions, and then you go fill out whatever he don't ask you, like verbally, you have to go and read it and answer the questions. So it's a good thing in the beginning, but after that first year, maybe even the first year is a breeze because the first year you're learning everything, you're getting your feet wet. Most times you're with a training officer for probably 6 months to a year. And once you get out on your own, you still have about a year of learning. Mm-hmm. So about the 3rd year, 4th year, maybe, go talk to somebody and say, hey, look, this is what's been going on in my career. We have officers. There was an incident a few weeks ago, about a month or so ago, where an officer was, and you can only imagine what the officers who watched their coworker lying on the ground being shot by a suspect and couldn't do anything because if they run in now, they get hurt. So it's like they returning fire trying to stop the suspect from killing their coworker. And then once they were able to get coverage, officers had to physically run into this scene and get this guy's body and bring him back out of the scene. So it's a lot that you deal with. You're not only dealing with the pressure of your coworkers being hurt or harmed while you're on duty, but you have to deal with the people in the community. Then a lot of the officers have homes and families and children, and they have to go home to their families who's probably, especially now with COVID-19, all over the place. So to me, counseling would help. I think it's something that could be implemented and that should be thought about. And maybe every agency should consider it, some type of counseling program for officers after so many years.
Yeah. So Terrica, where do you see the state of policing in the next 12? 10 years?
I'm kind of biased with my answer on that because I believe a lot in our agencies right here in Baton Rouge. When I did my inauguration, did you come to my inauguration? I thought I saw you.
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah.
You had Gilmore.
I can't see me missing it. I know that.
At the DA, at the chief of police, we had the sheriff, Steve Gotro, we had the mayor, we had state representative Denise Marcel, we had my pastor, we had another pastor. So it was like all law enforcement and community leaders on one stage. And from what I'm understanding, that was the first time in history that all these people were on the same stage for a good cause. Normally you see the DA, the chief and the sheriff and the mayor, somebody on a crime scene or something, not on the stage for a good cause.
Yeah.
And in my first year and a half, going on 2 years now, I've seen agencies like Bridging Gaps working together. We stand hand in hand, like working. If the sheriff has something going on, the chief and the constable are going to show up. If the chief has something going on, the constable and the sheriff is coming. Vice versa, if I have something, the sheriff and the chief of police coming. Even the university chiefs, like Southern have a chief, LSU have a chief, and BRCC have a chief. I get calls from them all the time. Hey, what's going on? What y'all doing? Do y'all need anything? And even like crime scenes that like when officers are getting hurt, you see these agencies stepping in saying, what can y'all do to help? So if we keep pushing in that direction and with great leaders, they can show us that each agency have leaders who care about the community and their workers, because it's two-sided. You have to make sure your workers are okay, and you have to make sure your people are okay in the community. So I really feel, I honestly feel, and this is my opinion, that all in Louisiana and Baton Rouge, our agencies are going, and I think we'll do good if we keep going in this direction.
Okay. Well, sounds great. You're going to be in the office for a long time, girl.
They say, like, they were like, how long is your term? I say, every 6 years. My guy said, she got 18 years to go. I'll be like, look, I'm going to take time. Every other elected official position is more or less 4 years, but mine is every 6 years. And they just 10 years ago, I said, look, we're going to take one term at a time. But keep me here, I'll be here.
Yeah, that's great, Terrica. I'm so proud of you. I am. I have just a couple more questions and then we'll be able to wrap it up. But I want to ask you this, though, because, you know, since the George Floyd incident, do you see a reduction in the police force?
No.
Not just here either, not just here in the state of Louisiana. That's really a question, you know, nationwide here.
Now, I heard rumors, I don't know because I'm not in those areas, but in one area, some of the officers walked out. They felt that they wasn't being protected. They felt like they were in a bad position because of the things that were happening. And I think kind of in the defense of the officers, it was kind of like a mixed signal because the leaders were saying, hey, I don't want you to do this, but I want you to do this. And then they'll turn around and say, well, no, you can't do this, but you can do that. And it's all kind of conflicting. So officers started feeling like, you know what, if I show up at work, I'm in a bad position. And I'm the first to say, we have way more good officers than bad officers. You may find that one that just, I don't know why they do what they do. I don't know why they brain tell them to do certain things. But out of that one, you got a whole agency of more good officers. Of course, everybody can't be the constable's office because I have great deputies, all my guys, and they know. Like parents say, I can't tell you what my kids going to do out around, but I can tell you what they do in front of me. My guys know if you do it, I know everybody, and you don't know who's going to come back and tell me what you've done. So they pretty much try to stay on the right track and go in the right direction so that I don't have to get the bad news. But here in Louisiana, I think we're where we need to be with our officers. I can't speak for the other agencies. I heard the rumors about how officers were walking out and didn't want to work, but I just can't speak to that because I'm not in that area to know.
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm going to put my little 2 cents in. I really hope not to see a reduction because no matter what, we need you guys. And I have to say you because you are a law enforcement officer, even though you're over a a great deal of them. But at the same time, we need someone to, or we need police officers, to protect us, because in spite of everything, there's so much is happening in this world today. I mean, crime. Now I have to say, me personally doing some of my research, I have found or seen that there is a decrease, since the pandemic, as well as with the George Floyd incident. But at the same time, I hope that is not the case, that there is a reduction. But hopefully that there will be, plenty more candidates that would just, try to come on board, knowing that agencies are in need of great, police officers, So with that being said, are there any candidates? Are you guys hiring, or would you like to see more candidates in the law enforcement, even here in the city of Baton Rouge?
Oh, yes, we always need good officers. And with my agency, my turnaround is so low because, like I said, I hate to keep 2001, my guys love what they do, and they love working at the constable's office. I had one position open right when the pandemic started, and we had to put it on hold because of the pandemic. But after the pandemic, we opened it back up, and I had, I think, 20 applicants. And it's hard because, and I'm like, 20? And we go through and we top scores, like they have to take a test in order to work with us. And we try to pick the top scores, and we go through background checks, and we just check everything before we even call in for an interview. And it was so hard because all of them were good applicants. And we interviewed, and once you interview at least 10 of the people, it's still hard to pick, okay, which one do you pick now? And we all need good officers. I know BR City Police have an academy going on right now. They actually had just hired a group of cadets when the pandemic started. And they had to bring the cadets to work, and they had to hold off on the academy. But then as soon as everything cleared out, they had to go back to and put these guys in the academy. The sheriff's office have an academy coming up in August. Even with the pandemic going on, we still need good officers because that's what we want. We want the good people. We don't want the people who want to just come work, get a paycheck, and then treat people any kind of way. We want people to see our vision. And I must say, the constable's office have a great leader. I've worked with Chief Murphy Paul. He's a great leader. I've worked closely with Steve Gotro. He's a great leader. So we have agencies that have good leaders and people who are about communities and the right thing. So we need good workers. If we can get our good workers to come in and just build with us so that we all can have some great agencies and people will feel safe, protect, we have manpower on the streets to, make sure everybody is safe on the streets, inside, because we have a lot of inside positions that have to be worked. So if we get some people and good applicants in, we'll do good. So if they're looking for law enforcement, please apply at the Sheriff's Office, EBRSO, I think it's EBRSO.org. Apply at BRPD, BatonRougeCityPolice.org, or you can go to the Baton Rouge City website. The constable's office, y'all can apply, but I hardly ever have a position open. And when they catch it open, they run it. And I can only have an open position because nobody never leaves.
Wow. And they have a right not to leave because they have a great leader. Look, I enjoyed this interview so much, and honestly, you gave some imperative information that I'm sure that our listeners, or have received this information that you have given, because it was really great and awesome. So once again, I want to say thank you so much for accepting this invitation to be a part of Exposure Spotlight Magazine talk show. Is there anything else that you would like to leave with the audience? Some information or anything like that you would like to share before we end?
Yes, most importantly, please be safe. Put your mask on. I wear a mask every day. That's why I hardly ever wear lipstick or makeup. I get this little matte lipstick that stays on a long time. And I put it on under the mask, and I'm like, nobody can see your lipstick, Terrica, but please wear your mask. Sanitize your hands, do your social distancing. We're all going through trying times right now. Even with the protesting situations, please, I'm asking our communities to allow us as leaders to do what we can to make sure and fix the problems before they get upset and start protesting. Because once you start protesting, we can't focus on the problem if we have to focus on the protesters. So let's work together, let's build together, And let's make Baton Rouge, most importantly, a better place. But let's make our United States, the nation, the world a better place by doing our part.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you, Terrica Williams, the Baton Rouge City Constable. I have to say, your voice truly matters. And you have given us some great information, and I greatly appreciate that. And once again, thank you for accepting this invitation, and I hope to see you again soon. And everyone, I hope you all enjoyed the program. Of course, again, my name is Teresa Perkins. I am the editor and host of Exposure Spotlight Magazine, where your voice, it matters.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Once again, I'd like to say thank you for tuning in to Exposure Spotlight Magazine, where your voice matters. And don't forget to go to our YouTube channel and subscribe, and follow us on Instagram.